again, so this year, guys, 2022, I'm going to shift. Instead of introducing words that you can use instead of good, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to introduce words you can use instead of bad. Okay? So this year, the vocabulary word of the day is going to be around the theme of words you can use instead of bad. Why? Well, we need to describe things positively, but we also need to describe things negatively. For example, last week I was quite sick with COVID. That wasn't a very positive experience. It was very negative. So I want words to describe that. So to start with, today's word is horrible. My experience with COVID last week was horrible. Okay, so this is an adjective you can use instead of bad. Now, if you look at the definition, it says very bad. So we use this word when something is really, really bad, very bad, or unpleasant. So something that really does not feel good, such as an illness. And it's used to describe something, excuse me, that you do not like. Okay? So something really horrible. Now, my example is my illness was very horrible. It was horrible. And by the way, guys, sorry, I just made the same error. If you use a word like this, you don't need a word like very or really. Just use horrible. See, if you use the word good, when something is really good, you need to add very or something like that to make it more intense. If you use the word bad and something is really, really bad, you have to attach an intensifier like very or really to give that some meaning. But you can get rid of both of those words and just use something strong like horrible. Okay? My illness was horrible, right? My illness was horrible. Okay? So now I want you, all of you, to make a sentence in the comment thread using this adjective, horrible, to describe something. Okay? Something was horrible. It means very bad. Okay? Let's see what you can come up with. In the meantime, I'll say hello to Lenora. Welcome back, Lenora. I'm happy to be streaming live to you guys again. We've had a short break over the holidays, during which time I became quite ill. My illness was horrible. So please bear with me while I drink a little water, because my throat and my cough still feels horrible. So let's see your examples, guys. I'm going to put the chat here. Let's see what you can come up with. In the comment thread, give me a sentence. Okay, let's see. My English is horrible. That's a perfect sentence. Okay, that's a perfect sentence. So I don't believe your English is horrible. Waiting for late people is a horrible situation. Okay, this is a nice sentence. We have the noun situation and the adjective horrible is explaining it or describing it. Very nice example. Chris says, next month I'll be 8 years in an inheritance fight. That's horrible. Chris, that does sound horrible. And Carmen says, the traffic jam at rush hour is horrible. This is kind of strange. You can only see my head here. Hopefully that's okay. Yeah, the traffic jam at rush hour is horrible. I agree. Okay, we have a nice long little story here from Tireth. The son said to his father, who cooked the food for the first time, I can't eat this food because it looks horrible. It smells horrible and it tastes horrible. The father was shocked. Yeah. Wow. I think, Tireth, I think it's time for you to write a book. That's a good little story. Lenora, oh, thank you. You missed me. I miss you too. Cleonice says, having a flight canceled is horrible. I agree. In fact, over the holidays, I flew to Toronto to visit my family, and my wife and I booked a certain emergency row seats. We paid extra to have emergency row seats so I could have more legroom. You can't see here, but I'm actually quite tall. And we got to the airport, get to the flight, and they gave our seats away. So for my flight from Vancouver to Toronto, I had to sit in a small seat with my legs all scrunched up. It was horrible. Yes. So horrible. Very bad or unpleasant. Very much so. Right? Very much so. Anyone else have an example? Let's see what you can come up with. Having COVID last week was horrible. Even though I was fully vaccinated, I got sick, and it was horrible. It took me about 6 days before I started feeling a little better. I'm feeling okay now, but those symptoms still linger. Okay, we have a new friend with us, Emil Rashid. Welcome to the show, Emil. Can you tell us what country you're watching from, Emil? As you can see here, we have a nice group of international friends. We have people from Brazil, we have people from Japan, we have Peru in the house. So it's really great to have you here. Thank you for joining the show. Oops, I'm all obscured here. And so the format of the show, Emil, is quite simple. You guys ask me questions about English, and I do my best to answer them right here live. But we also always start the show with introducing a new piece of adjective, a new vocabulary piece you can use. And tonight's adjective is horrible, and everyone's trying. So, Emil, can you... Emil says he's in India. Okay, great. Thanks for tuning in. We have Roni, who's in Bangladesh. His example says, yesterday I saw a car accident that was horrible. Yeah, I'm sure. Great example. Carmen says, that was a horrible thing to say. Yes. Good job. Okay, great. Well, guys, if you don't have any more examples, I'm going to clear the word of the day and do a little breakdown on the board because I still have some outstanding questions from our last show. So let's move on to those right away. And then we should have lots of time for your questions. And again, the format of the show is you ask me questions and I answer them. So think about what you'd like to know. Oh, here's let's get Emil's. I watched a new show on Netflix and it was horrible. LOL. Yeah, you know what? There's some good shows on Netflix and sometimes there's some garbage. A lot of serial killer shows, a lot of American shows where everyone's just shooting and everything's fast and noisy. Sometimes it's really annoying. So I know what you mean. Oh, we have some more examples coming in. We have Lenora says spoiled food smells horrible. Absolutely. But you know what, Lenora? Because I have these lasting symptoms from COVID, I can't smell anything. We've been cooking all kinds of foods at home and strange smells. I don't smell anything. Or cleaning chemicals. I don't smell anything right now. It's very strange. Chris says the situation in education in Belgium is horrible due to the absence of teachers. Absence in this sense is not a countable noun. It can be a countable noun, but here you're talking about the general absence of teachers and students. Yeah, I'm sure that's a horrible situation. Okay, we have Tirath. It was a horrible experience during the time I suffered from COVID. Yeah, sorry to hear that, Tirath. I can definitely sympathize with you now. Okay, guys, let's go to our breakdowns. And I'm going to look at the first question. Weeks ago when we did our Christmas show, someone gave me this question. What does this mean? What are the odds? What are the odds? So this word, odds, let's see what we have, is a synonym for probabilities. Okay, probabilities. And this is a mathematical idea. It's related to the mathematics of chance. And the expression comes from gambling, from card games. What are the odds? For example, I'm not an expert on cards, but I think you have 50 cards or 52 cards in a playing card deck. And so you have 52 cards, and one of them is, I don't know, a joker. So you have one in 52 chances to pull that joker out, right? One chance out of 52. Or if you're talking about something like the lottery, right? The lottery. You buy a lottery ticket. Well, let's say 10 million. Let's say 10 million people buy a lottery ticket. And then the lottery company chooses one. Well, that means you have a 1 in 10 million chance. That is the probability, right? I'm not great at math, but that's the idea. The idea is, what is the percent probability that something will happen? So, let's say you're walking down the street and you turn the corner of a building and you see your old friend. You haven't seen this friend for 20 years. So the chance of seeing this old friend is very low. Maybe it's not one chance out of 10 million chances. Maybe not. But the chances are very low. The probability is very low. You don't start your day going, today I'm going to see that old friend named Bob. You don't think like that because you haven't seen this person in 20 years. So the chance of seeing your friend is very low. The odds are very low. So when we use the word odds, it's a noun, and it means the chances, the percent of probability, how likely something is to happen. And you hear this word a lot in North America to describe sports. What are the odds one team will win over this team? Let's say you have two sports teams, two football teams, for example, and one team is really great. Everyone expects them to win. The probability of them winning is very high, and one team is very weak team, so the probability of them winning is low. So people gamble on that. They bet money. And they'll say, what are the odds? And they'll try to calculate the chances. And that's how they win money. So that's what odds mean. We use it to express surprise, right? What are the odds I meet my friend? So when something funny, usually pleasant, and surprising happens, you can say, oh my gosh, what are the odds? Right? It's expressing your surprise that something happened because the probability of it happening were really low. Okay? So for example, last week I got COVID. The probability was pretty low because I was fully vaccinated. I've been working from home for 2 years, avoiding being out too much in public. So I've been reducing the probability of getting COVID. And then I got it. Why? Probably because I flew in a plane. I went to the airport where there were a lot of people. When I went to the airport, I increased the odds of getting COVID. So when I got COVID, I said, what are the odds? Right? I stay home for 2 years, doing a live show with you guys, teaching students privately instead of at school, because I want to reduce the probability of getting COVID. I take one flight to visit my family and I get COVID. What are the odds? Okay? So it's a way to express your surprise that something happened. Something improbable happened. Something not really probable. Okay? Hopefully that answers that question. Now I'm going to go to this question. Which expression is correct? So-so, more or less, less and less. Okay, let's take them one at a time. So-so. What does so-so mean? It's a way of expressing something is sort of in the middle, sort of average. Not so good, not so bad, right? Not so good, but not so bad. In the middle, right? Average, let's say mediocre. So, if you ask me today, hey, Teacher Paul, how are you feeling? I might say, I feel so-so. I don't feel terrible like last week. I don't feel horrible like last week. I don't feel super horrible like last week. I don't feel sick, but I really don't feel 100% strong and healthy yet. I still have a few weird symptoms. I feel a little bit weak, a little bit tired. So, Teacher Paul, how are you feeling? So-so. So this expression is correct. You can use it. The other expression down there is more, less. Now this one's not correct unless you put or, more or less. And how do you use this and what does it express? Well, if you say, let's say, Paul, do you feel good? So someone has to give you an adjective first. Do you feel good? Do you feel good? And my answer could be, well, yes, I feel good, more or less. It's sort of like saying so-so. It means I feel more good than yesterday, but also less good than I want to, right? So it's expressing that it seems like I'm feeling good, but not as good as I want. So more or less. Is learning English hard? Yeah, more or less, right? This can also apply to people, groups of people. Is everyone working hard? More or less. Some are working harder, more hard than others. Some are working less hard. So it's another way of expressing average or mediocre, kind of in the middle. A little of this, a little of that. A little bit positive, a little bit negative. Okay, but you need the or. More or less is the expression. Now, less and less is a very different thing. Less and less, I'm going to erase this, guys, is a way to express decrease. So for example, let's say we're measuring something here. It could be anything. Let's say, I don't know, number of COVID cases in your city. Let's say last week the cases were 90. And this week the cases are 70. Right? This measurement is less than this one. Right? And maybe it was less than this one. So how do we express that kind of measurement change in words? We can say, the number of now the correct adjective is fewer. So we're going to say fewer and fewer. We can say, let's say the cost of gasoline we're measuring, the cost of fuel. Okay, so now let's talk about dollars. It was $100 a liter, very expensive. Now it's $70 a liter. You can say the cost is getting less and less And then here we need an adjective like expensive. Okay? The cost of gas is getting less and less expensive. Right? Now, what if it goes up again? If it goes up to $80 a liter and up to $100 a liter, then the cost is getting more and more expensive. Okay? So less and less, more and more. This expresses increase or decrease. Okay? Make sense? Okay. So all of these expressions are useful. They're all quite different. And they're all pretty accurate. All we needed was to add the more or less when we use that expression. Okay. The next question I'm going to answer, before we move to some new questions, is a question about prepositions. Now, prepositions come up all the time. I know because lots of learners struggle with them. And I understand that. So I like addressing these questions because they're useful, they're important, and I like the fact that you wonder about these things and you notice some of the contradictions with these prepositions. So what's the difference between in and into? Great question. Let's talk about this first. Well, the difference right away is this has two syllables. And in fact, if you look closely, it's actually two prepositions, in and to. Now, I think you know what in means, right? We use in to describe something that is contained in something else. So for example, this USB is in the box, right? I am in my studio, okay? The studio surrounds me, all around me. I'm in it, right? And my studio is in my home, right? We can say, my tea is in the cup. That's in. What about to? To expresses movement. Whenever we use a verb of movement, like go, or walk, or run, or fly, or travel, a verb of movement expresses that a subject moves from one place of origin to a place of destination. For example, I'm going to move, movement verb, move is definitely a movement verb. I'm going to move this cup from that shelf to the other shelf. Yesterday, I walked from my home to the store. Last month, I flew from Vancouver to Toronto. Flew is a verb that expresses movement. All verbs that express movement tell us that the subject of a sentence is moving from someplace to another. So to connects the destination. I'm walking to the store, right? I'm right now speaking to you. Speak it's hiding, but it's a movement verb. What moves? Not me, my words. My words move from my mouth to your ears through my microphone. I'm speaking to you. Okay? That's why we have the preposition to with the verb listen. When we listen to music, we always use the preposition to. Listen to music. Why? Because the music moves from your stereo to your ears. Right now, you are listening to me. Why? Because my words are traveling electronically to your speakers or your headphones or to your ears. Okay, that's to. What does into mean? Let me show you. Okay, this USB is in the box. Okay? It's in the box. I have another USB over here. It's not in the box right now. It's in my hand. And the box is over there, right? I can't put this in the box without moving it. I have to move it from here to the box and then in the box. So the preposition is expressing two steps. There's movement from here to the box, and when it gets to the box, it goes in the box. Into expresses movement that results in a container. Okay? Let's say, you might say something like, I got accepted into university, right? That means you have to travel to the university in order to be in it. There's two stages there. There's two ideas being expressed. In expresses the idea of containment, and to, movement to a destination or an ending place. Okay? And you can think about this with all these multiple prepositions like onto. Right? So I have this USB again. At the top of my whiteboard is a little shelf, and things can be on the shelf. But to put things on the shelf, they have to move from where they are to the top of the shelf, and now they're on the shelf. Right? So I would say, I will put my USB onto the shelf. Right? Onto the shelf. It has to move to the shelf, then be on the shelf. Same with upon. Maybe we could say something silly like, I'm going to put this cloth upon my head. Right? Now it's on my head. But first it had to travel up. Okay? It was down here. It has to travel up. Now it's on my head. So that's when you can say upon. Upon, onto. So the difference between in and into, use into when you want to imply movement from one place to another. Hey, let's go for a visit to our friend. Let's get into the car. I'm not close to the car right now. I have to move to the car, then I can be in it. 2 steps. Okay? Excuse me. So that's the difference between those two. Into has the movement first, and then it's in something. Let's put this onto the shelf. From here to the shelf, and then it's on the shelf. I can't just put that on the shelf. It has to move onto the shelf. Okay? Hopefully that clears that up. Okay, guys. I think that's the last of our... Oh, we have one more left over. This one's an interesting one. So, Berta asked this question last time. Let me just take a moment here to say hello to some new people joining us. Who is it? Did I miss someone? Okay, Roni has a good question I'll get to in a moment. Fatima. Fatima, welcome to the show, Fatima. We have Facebook user. Hi, Facebook user. What's your name, Facebook user? Guys, if you watch the show from a Facebook group, that's fine. But if you want to make comments, I can't see your name from a Facebook group. So it's always better to watch the show from my Facebook profile, Paul Duke, my Facebook page, Teacher Paul Duke, or from the YouTube channel. And you can find all of those by going to @HardboiledEnglish, okay? Because then you can leave your name and I can see who you are. We have Ethan Hall with us with a weird message. I don't know what it means. Fatima says, it's amazing. Thank you. You're amazing. Thanks for joining us. Okay. I have one more question to address here. Berta said, can you tell me if this sentence is correct or not? The book has lain on the sofa for 7 days. Now, I can say quite simply, this is fine. And, you know, the tricky part here is the verb, lain. This is the past participle. And actually I have a graphic we can use. Let me just find it. Ah, yes. Okay. So this is often confused. So it's a good chance to clear this up. In English, there are two verbs. Let me clear the logo. Lay and lie. Lay and lie. Now, they share a similar meaning, right? To be horizontal. Okay? Such as lying on your bed, right? Horizontal. However, grammatically, there's a small difference. So the meaning is the same in a way, but the grammatical difference makes a big difference in the sentence structure. Lay is a transitive verb. And that means lay needs to be followed by an object. You need to lay something. Okay? The subject lays the object. So the object moves, not the subject. Okay? That's really important. So let me show you what that looks like. Paul, let's use the past tense, laid the USB on the table. Okay? I had my USB in my hand, and I laid it on the table horizontally. So, what moved? What laid? Me or the USB? Well, clearly the USB moved. I made it move, but the USB is the one that ended up horizontal, not me. So, the subject did the action, and the action affected the object. Subject, verb, object. That's what a transitive verb does. Okay? So these are the different forms. Lay, laid, past tense. Laid is also the past participle, and laying is the progressive participle. Okay? Lie is different. Lie is intransitive, which means it does not need an object. And if there's no object, what moves? Well, the subject moves. So it's like this. Paul, and let's use the past tense, lay on the beach. Okay? Paul lay on the beach. So we have a subject, the verb, and there's no object. Instead, we have a preposition phrase telling us where this happened. So you can see the big difference here. Paul laid the USB. That's a transitive grammar. Paul lay on the beach. So Paul did the action, and then what was affected by the action? Well, the subject was. There is no object. So that's an intransitive meaning. So it would be weird for me to say the USB lay on the table, because that sounds like it moved itself. Not possible, really. Okay? So with the intransitive meaning over here, intransitive meaning of lie, okay, we can see the past participle is lain. The past participle is lain. And we don't need an object. So if we look at Berta's sentence, this book has lain. The book is the subject, and we have has lain. So this is present perfect, right? Has lain, present perfect. So that's our verb form, our predicate, on the sofa. So there's no object. We have a prepositional phrase, just like this one, Paul lay on the beach. So we could say Paul has lain on the beach, and it's the same structure, right? Paul did the action, but he was affected, not the object. There is no object. So Paul, the book has lain on the sofa for 7 days. It's just sitting there. The book isn't causing action to another object. It's not. So, Berta, the sentence is correct. Okay? This sentence is correct. So hopefully this clears it up, guys. Lay means the same thing, basically, as lie, but the grammar is different, and it really affects the way you can use it in a sentence. Lay is transitive, and lie is intransitive. So remember, an intransitive verb doesn't need an object, so it can just have a subject and a verb. You can say something as short as Paul lay. Paul lay. Well, we'd like to know where, so Paul lay on the beach. But you can't say that with laid in the past tense. Paul laid. Paul laid what? He has to laid something. There has to be an object there. Transitive and intransitive verb use is incredibly important in English. So I would urge you to understand it and work on it. And by the way, I have 2 videos available on my YouTube channel all about transitivity. And you can find them in the English Weirdness playlist. Okay, so I highly recommend you studying that if this remains confusing for you, okay? Because if you don't understand transitivity, it really affects how you can build a sentence. Okay, so I'm going to clear the board, and I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions before my voice gets lost. So I'm going to go back to Roni's question. Before we go to that, we have a good question here from Lenora. Which is correct? I have a lot on my plate or have a lot in my plate? Great question. And this is again related to in versus on. In describes something in a container. And by a container, I mean whatever it is, it's surrounded on most sides. The USB is in the box, right? The tea is in the cup. The preposition on describes the relationship between an object and a surface. A flat surface. Okay? Flat surface. For example, you are watching me on your screen. Your screen is a flat surface. I am on the internet. The internet isn't a container. I can't be in it. I'm on it because I'm actually just on your screen. I wrote on the board because the board is a flat screen. This is also why we use on to talk about things like skateboard. Paul is on the skateboard, right? And in fact, a skateboard is just a flat surface. But so are other transportation vehicles, such as a train. Right? Even though the train is also a container, a passenger can walk that way and a passenger can walk that way. So their main relationship is with the surface, the flat surface. The relationship between the person and the surface is the main thing. So we would say, I'm on the train, or I'm on the bus. On a bus, you can walk along the surface, right? Even an airplane, you can stand up and move on the floor of the plane. So you can say, I'm on the airplane, right? Think about a car. When you're in a car, you have to sit down in a seat, right? So we don't say on a car, we say in, because you can't walk on the surface of a car. You are contained by it. So use the preposition on when you're talking about a flat surface, like a plate. Okay? I have a lot on my plate. I don't have a plate here, do I? I have a small one. This is a plate, a small plate, but it's a plate. It's flat. I can put a nail on my plate. I can put a marker on my plate. I can put a little ceramic thing on my plate. I can put a wooden Canadian moose on my plate. Now I have a lot on my plate. It's not in my plate. It's not contained. In fact, you can still see it. One thing is on the other. Can you see my USB? No, it's contained by this box. You have to open the box and look in to see the USB. Okay? Okay. Okay. Okay, so my Korean friend is with us, but I don't know your name. So maybe you could please say hello and tell us your name. Thank you for watching. Someone has to go. Thank you for watching the show. We'll be done in a moment. Ria Eichmann is watching. Thanks for watching the show, Ria. We think we have time for one more question. So I think we have one outstanding from Roni. Chieko's with us. Hi, Chieko. Hopefully you're doing well these days. Who else is watching? Okay, I'm going to go back and find Roni's question. How to change adverbial clause back into adverbial phrase. Okay, it's not a bad question. First of all, what's a clause? A clause is the basic building block of English meaning. It's a subject and a verb. Okay? Clause is a subject and a verb. Very minimal. Something like, I ran. I ran. Okay? It's not a big idea, but it's a complete idea. That's a clause. A phrase doesn't have a verb. Okay? A phrase is a group of words that doesn't have a verb. So let's make an adverbial clause. Something like, when I was sick, I could not sleep. So last week, I had a terrible few days with COVID, and I could not sleep. Why? Because I was sick. So if we look closely at this, when I was sick, I could not sleep. This is my main clause. This is my main idea. I've got a subject, I've got a modal, I've got a verb. Okay? This is my adverbial clause. It's telling us when that was true. If I just told you I could not sleep, you would ask me when. It's past tense. I could not sleep. It's past tense. And you don't know when. So you would ask when. Adverbs answer questions. Okay? Let's just change this a little bit to make it a little more clear. When I was sick, I ate pizza. Okay? I ate pizza. When? When I was sick. So, here we also have a clause. We have a subject and a verb, so that's a clause. But it's adverbial because it's not the main idea. It's not a complete idea. When I was sick is not a complete idea. If I walked up to some stranger at a bus stop and said, "Excuse me, when I was sick," well, that stranger wouldn't understand my meaning. But if I walked up to a stranger and said, "Excuse me, I ate pizza." Now, they might not know why I'm saying it, but they would understand that as a complete idea. That's the main idea of this sentence. This is the adverbial clause modifying and telling us when I ate, when that verb happened. So it's an adverbial of time. So Roni wants to know how to change that into a phrase. Well, if it's going to be a phrase, the first thing we got to do is get rid of the verb. When I sick. That's a little weird, isn't it? Because we have an adjective here modifying the subject and nothing to connect them. That's a problem. Well, you could do several things. You could just say, sick, I ate pizza. That's one way to do it. Sick, I ate pizza. You could say, when sick, I ate pizza. Okay? You could even say, being sick, I ate pizza. Right? So to make an adverbial clause into an adverbial phrase, the idea is that you're removing the verb, Roni. But the question really is why? Why would you do that? Shorter is often better, but complete ideas are good too. So, when I was sick is a clause because it has a subject and a verb, and it's a bit longer, but it's really clear. So, when I was sick last week, I ate pizza. That's a nice, complete idea. So you don't always need to reduce an adverb clause into a phrase. You can, but you might want to ask yourself, why would you want to? Okay? Okay. I'm sorry you had to experience that, Tirith. Having experienced it now, I know how terrible it can be, so I'm glad. I hope this passes soon and that you can smell and taste again, because I think if you're like me, you miss eating food and enjoying it. Carmen's asking, can we review the order of adjectives when constructing a sentence? Excuse me. Carmen, the show is going to end in a minute, so why don't we do this next week? Okay? I will also make available to everyone on the show next week a nice chart you can download for free to remember the order of adjectives. I've got a nice system in place that we can use. I don't think it's set up right now, but something like this. It's a chart. I make these charts to help people remember different grammatical structures. I'll bring next week the order of adjectives, okay? But we're running out of time, so I don't have time to discuss it today. All right, Carmen, I promise you we'll do that next week. Okay, guys, our time is up. Thank you for your patience while I operated the show alone tonight with my sick voice and the occasional cough. Hopefully that didn't break your eardrums. Thank you, everybody, for watching the show. Carmen, thank you. Chieko, thank you. Rie, thank you. Facebook user, whoever you are, thank you. Leonora, my Korean friend, I don't know your name, but thank you for watching. Fatima, Ethan, who else? Roni, my friend Roni in Bangladesh, thank you for watching. Tireth, my friend in Nepal, thank you for watching, as always. Chris Derbovin in Belgium, thank you. Emil, my new friend, watching from India, thank you for watching. We have Cleonice was with us from Brazil. Chris from Brazil was with us. Chris was here. Maria Cristina. Who else? Yoko Tanaka was with us. If I missed you, I'm sorry. My voice is cracking up, so I'm going to have to go, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. Thank you also for coming back after several weeks of the show being off the air. We'll be back next Friday as regularly scheduled. Everything will be back to normal. I've got some really great guests coming in this new year. So stay tuned to the show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already, please. Consider supporting the show. There's links down below for Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee, where you can make a small donation to help support the show. As I mentioned earlier, I'm also always available for private one-to-one lessons. If you're interested, contact me. You can find me everywhere on social media. The links are below, or just look for Hardboiled English. Stay tuned this Tuesday for the next episode of the Ego Education Podcast. I'm the co-host of that, with a very interesting guest with us. Okay, so lots of things happening in 2022. Lots more will happen once my health comes back. Excuse me. So, all of you guys, please take care of yourselves until the next time we get together for this Hardboiled English Live, okay? Next Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Time. See you there. Until that time, please stay safe. Please take care of yourself. And as always, guys, stay cool.